Let's unbox the Black Series 6-inch figure of Jedi Master Indara from the Acolyte. Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there, thanks for visiting Varykino. The very first wave of Black Series 6-inch figures from the Acolyte series have landed here in New Zealand. We recently had our school holidays and associated toy sales, and on the very second to last day of the toy sale, the Acolyte figures showed up here in New Zealand. We were so excited because of course that meant we could pick up the whole first wave of Black Series figures for 20% off. That was really exciting. I did a bit of a quick excited video checking out all 6 figures in their boxes because of course we've got this new Black Series packaging. I have already opened Jedi Master Soul, and for the second unboxing I have gone with Jedi Master Indara. From the preview shots, from the teasers and things, she was the one that caught my eye the most. She has some really cool action sequences, so of course I was really keen to get her in action figure form, and I think she looks absolutely amazing here. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up really soon, we'll get Master Indara out of the packaging, check out all of her details. She's got some very unique Jedi details to look at. But first, let's take one last look at this brand new Black Series packaging. For the Black Series range of 6-inch figures from the Acolyte, we have the brand new style of Black Series packaging from Hasbro. Of course, they seem to change things up every now and again, and I gotta say, I was quite nostalgic for those ones with the side angled panels. I have a lot of Black Series in that packaging style, but now that I have this one in hand, I gotta say, I do like this one better. I think it really shows off the figures. We can see we've got a really nice clear window here, showing off the Master Indara figure packaged inside. She has some really unique Jedi tunic details that I'm very keen to check out once she's out of the packaging. She comes with a soft goods Jedi cloak and a green lightsaber there. For the Acolyte series, we have this orange-red accent color. I think it looks really fun. We've got the series title, Star Wars The Acolyte, and instead of having the character name written underneath, it is now up the side, Jedi Master Indara. And of course, she is number 05. It's a little bit faint, but you can see it there. This is number 05 from the series of Acolyte Black Series figures. So of course we don't have a side angle, we now just have a straight edge side panel here. So it fits very much like a book on a shelf, which could be an advantage if you like to line up the mosaic of side art. We have here a fantastic likeness of Carrie-Anne Moss as Jedi Master Indara, as seen in that first episode. We've got the accent color coming in strong here at the bottom with the text Jedi Master Indara. One thing I do have to point out is that on some of the boxes, when you line them all up, this accent color stripe from the back does show a little bit on the side, so it might be a little bit distracting depending on how well the side panel kind of comes up and covers it. One thing that you can see, especially when you turn it to the back, is just how thick this new cardboard packaging is. On the cross section here, you can see that this is actually corrugated cardboard, which does give the box a very sturdy, hard edge, and I think that is great if you like to keep your figures boxed. They feel very sturdy. We've got that same art here, zoomed in a little bit here on the back, that accent color stripe running across there, 05, Star Wars The Acolyte, and Jedi Master Indara. Rather than a blurb about the character, we have a very non-spoilery blurb about the Acolyte series. At the end of the High Republic era, a former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but the forces they confront turn out to be far more sinister and personal than anticipated. Very high level there because of course they are alluding to Osha, who was kept secret until that first episode there. Just some very minor spoilers for the first episode. The rest of the packaging is just sort of attention, copyright warning, barcodes, all of that stuff. You will notice on this lower edge we've got a cutout, which is really going to help us open our boxes up. We've got one piece of tape here to snip through. Personally, I always like to open my Black Series figures up from the underside just in case of any wrinkles are going to be hidden when it's on display, but I do really appreciate this cutout, especially since, as I discovered when opening the Jedi Master Soul box, these are very sturdy. And another thing that I noticed opening up that box, the window here is actually part of the box. In those side angle versions, when you slid out the plastic tray, the window was part of the packaging and it slid out as well. So when you take the figures out, the box stays intact, which I do really like. For a very quick comparison, we've got the new style here, and just off to the side, I have ye olde side angle packaging. So you can see how much this window really does make a difference. It just looks so much wider and really shows off the figure. We can see that this new packaging is just a tiny bit shorter as well. And I do say, I think it is a little bit narrower as well, especially when you put them side on. The old boxes had a clear window in the top. These new ones do not. It is plain black. But I gotta say, as a collector, I do appreciate that this is going to be so much more easier to keep dust free. The dust just always managed to get in these windows. It was always a bit of a hassle. And of course, there's just something so nice and sleek about these hard right-angled edges. I'm always going to be nostalgic for this era, but I really do like this new style of packaging. It's going to be really fun lining up a whole new era of these figures on my collectible shelf. So that's a little bit of a look at the new Black Series packaging style. Let's get stuck in and open up this new Jedi Master Indara figure. As I mentioned, I like to open my Black Series boxes up from the underside, so let's snip this tape and slide out that inner tray. I do find these boxes are a little bit tricky to get into, probably more so because of how nice they look. I just don't want to damage them. You can see with that extra little thumb cutout, nice and easy to get them out. There is a little bit of printing on the red cardboard tray, but I found it quite a trick to get it back in, so I'm not going to remove the cardboard inner tray for this one. I'm just going to slide out the plastic. There we go. You can just kind of see the printing in behind the figure in there. Really nice. You can see that nice, clear, sturdy window there on the front once I've pulled out the tray. And here we have Jedi Master Indara in Black Series, a 6-inch form. We can see his soft goods cloak is sort of tucked through the back there, keeping that nice and tidy. So let's cut the sellotape, get her all out, and take a closer look. Now I have Jedi Master Indara and her green lightsaber accessory out of the packaging so we can take a closer look. And something that really caught my attention in those very early Acolyte trailers was Indara's really unique Jedi outfit. She has quite a different style to even prequel Jedi. She does not have the tabards, the sort of the long strap sort of hanging down over the front. She's got this sort of stripy tunic instead. So I'm really keen to check out all of the details on this one. And the colors are a little bit different as well. It's a little bit harder to show without direct comparison, and I do have Jedi Master Soul on hand to compare in a little while, but the coloring of her cloak is quite different. I originally thought it was sort of more of a brown. It is so sort of a deeper red. It is almost verging on burgundy under this light with my eyes here. It's really quite fun. It matches really well with the sort of more wine-toned color of her Jedi boots here as well. So I'm going to start off with the soft goods cloak because it does kind of cover up things. It's a little harder to see all of the sculpted details and the articulation. I don't like to be too rough with my soft goods elements, so let's take a look at it on the figure and then I'll remove it for the rest of the review. So I really like the big hoods that they have on these figures. The way that they sort of fold over the shoulders is just really fun. We don't have any sort of stitch lines. We don't have a separate hood that is sewn on to the cloak. It is sewn as part of it. And if this is like Jedi Master Soul's, yes it is. It is held in place with some stitching you can see here. So they're not really designed to be worn in a hood up configuration. Probably why we've just got these big broad sort of folds here over the shoulders rather than an individual hood sewn onto the rest of it. That does make it a little bit easier to sew in the factory because we don't have all of these tiny little stitching details around where the hood would be attached. But I do think it means that the hoods and everything kind of sit open really nicely there. The rest of it, as we would expect, we've got nice tidy little seams on the inside. All of the points are nice and sharp. I like the clean edges of these cloaks as well. We can see her hands peeking out to the bottom there, so that should be good if we test out articulation. It should gather at the elbows just nicely. I'm just going to quickly check that out here. because of course adding a little bit of a bend at the elbow means that the hands are more exposed. So that looks really good. Got some good gathers there. It's a good scale of fabric for this type of figure. Got just a few threads here that I might tidy up with some scissors in a little bit, but that's to be expected, of course, at the edge of the seaming there, because of course these are just raw edges. They're not fully seamed in as you would on a standard cloak. Of course, they're just raw. Overall, I like this cloak. I think it looks pretty good, especially when she's standing there. It kind of hits just on the sort of the desk just above, so it's not interfering. It's not kind of going wobbly when it hits the desk. It just sort of sits there and looks nice. Feels like a pretty good scale for this figure too, and I really like the color. So if I pull her arms towards the back, I should be able to just slip this off her shoulders, because I really do want to see all of the details and the articulation underneath. Being very gentle, we can slide it off there, and we can fully see some of those details there. We've got a little bit of stitching here at the base of the neck where this sort of hood is attached. It's a little bit hard to see because of course it's all sort of pinned in place, but it's kind of cool. You could use this to customize if you like to create your own unique Jedi action figures, because of course it slips off. There we go. I'm just going to store that in the back. Let's take a look at Indara, because now we can see all of the details. So she's got this sort of vest sort of tunic here over her very light colored undershirt with long sleeves running all the way to the back of her hands. She's got a fingerless glove on her right hand and just a bare hand on her left side, which is really quite nice. She's got a thick brown Jedi looking belt here going all the way around. She doesn't have pouches on this particular sculpt. She's got a sort of a little doodad here on her hip, a silver one here. She's got an attachment point for her hilt, and she has a gold-toned High Republic era Jedi sort of buckle here on the front. Kind of interesting, we don't have any sort of pouches or any other detail going on here with her belt. I do wonder if they gave her a very streamlined Jedi tunic so that the actress Carrie-Anne Moss could do some really sort of acrobatic fight scenes without too much sort of getting in the way or weighing her down, without extra tabards. The tunic is even really short across the hips there. Nothing sort of hanging down over her pants there. It is quite a different figure and does look a little bit plainer once you get the robe off, I have to say. But that is, of course, the costume from the series. That is not going to be Hasbro's fault there. So just quickly looking, I've got just a little bit of rubbing here from the belt sort of up on the tunics. Just a tiny bit of red, because of course this is a part where the figure can bend forward. So I feel like that's just caught a little bit. It's not like full paint transfer. Just looks a little bit more like some rubbing there. Just got a little bit of a creak sort of noise there. Starting at the face, I really like this face sculpt. I think they have captured her really nicely. And we've got some really cool detail here with the hair. They've got sort of gone with that sort of array, soft pieces of loose hair flowing down the sides of the face. I really like that. And again, a little bit, it feels like a little bit of a nod to Rey. We've got the sort of ponytail coming down the back with these three sort of little buckle details running down the back. Really nice detail there. Very nice. And it feels like a separate sculpted piece, as we have come to expect in this modern era. And it is attached really nicely along the hairline. Sometimes, ever so slightly, you get those gaps where it's not quite seated right. On my particular figure, it looks really nice and tidy. I really like the detail here on the back. And of course, we even have those two tiny little black dots by Indara's left eye, which is of course accurate, not a paint flaw. She does have those dots in the show. Sometimes those little dots do catch me out. Sometimes they are faithfully replicating a freckle or something from an actor or actress, and yeah, it just sort of catches me out like it's a spot or a paint flaw, but it is indeed supposed to be there. I like the facial expression, I like the likeness, and we've got some really nice tidy paint here as well. I think they have captured the character really well. Moving down, we've got a little bit of sculpting detail here on the close promo shots and on the box art. You can see that her under tunic has some striping texture to it, which mirrors, of course, the striping stitch detail of her sort of vest tunic here. So I can just make that out. And we do have sort of a little bit of sort of paint sort of accentuating that tunic here. You will see that we've kind of got a sort of a cream color wash or weathering sort of accent that really picks up those striped lines of her tunic on the front. Turning around to the back, it's a different story. It looks very clean and you can kind of see it stopping rather abruptly at the shoulders, which was something I wasn't expecting, and I think this is a little bit of a shame. Hasbro's got to know that fans are going to be putting their toys in all sorts of scenes and poses and dioramas. I suppose they figured we wouldn't be taking the cloak off very often, but sometimes I do like to pose them without the soft goods in the way, and I think this almost looks too white compared to that front. I think that is a bit of a shame. We've still got these sort of striped lines, but without that sort of accent paint, it kind of looks a little unfinished, I have to say, especially since we get the cream color of the sleeves still showing through a little bit there. The cream color on the pants feels pretty even on both sides because, of course, this is going to be the plastic, not the paint here. Pretty smooth and straight here on the front of the pants. We've got that sort of sculpting detail where it comes down over the knees, which I do really like. It sort of hides the articulation from the front. Of course, when we're going to bend it, we're going to see that showing, but I like that it's kind of hidden. I guess for most of us, a lot of our black series are going to be posed in a standing up front position. So I like that that articulation is hidden and even fairly well hidden on the back. It's all the same sort of color. It's all sort of disappearing there. Without looking at it, it almost kind of looks like a white Imperial officer from the back. Something about the tunic, the belt, and the boots. It's almost like if you squint, you can sort of see a white Imperial officer costume there. Like the knees at the front, we've got the fabric draping down at the elbows. I quite like that because, of course, Jedi sleeves kind of have a bit of a hang to them and a drape, so I like that being hidden. Of course, the articulation is more visible from the front, but if you're going to hold a lightsaber, you're often going to have your elbows bent, so that articulation is quite nicely hidden there, and it still looks pretty good from the back there as well. So, of course, we have a little bit of a capped sleeve here for her vest style tunic, and I'm curious to see, because oftentimes I think back to, say, a Vader figure that has a bit of a shoulder bell shape to the chest, and we often have like a split or something at the back so that it doesn't affect the way that the arms can move. This one doesn't have any splits, that is overshadowing over the shoulders here. So curious to see if this is going to really impact how well we can get her arms up. I can get to about there, and it doesn't really want to go up anymore. I feel like there is perhaps a little bit of give with this plastic. Like there's a little bit, if I squeeze, I can kind of feel like it's a little bit rubbery, but there's not really a lot of give or extra space here. Her tunic is quite fitted to her body, which I do like, but I can get her arms up a reasonable amount, maybe not full right angles or anything like that. If I get to here, it's kind of stopping. It doesn't really want to sort of rotate past that because it's going to hit that. So I can get some cool poses, but perhaps not quite as many as we would without this shoulder cap. But that is a costume choice. I think Hasbro's done a pretty good job of translating the details. I just don't know why that weathering was not continued on the back, considering that there are some figures out there with a lot of detail on the back, little painted boxes, you know, bits and pieces. She doesn't have a lot going on. It sort of feels like it's even more noticeable that we are missing detail on the back here when the rest of her is so sort of visually simple. We don't have pouches or anything like that. They've had to spend time painting. Let me know, did I just get a bung one and this is painted on everyone else's figures, or is this going to be true across all of the Indara figures? I do like the belt. It's a pretty good spot to hide that articulation. I can pivot her around a little bit. I can get a fair way back, and you can see that that painting does actually go sort of pretty tight under the belt there as well. I wasn't too worried about this belt affecting the articulation. I can get some pretty good movement there. We do have a small split at the side running up to the belt, but this is of course plastic and it doesn't feel as rubbery as some others I've felt. I do wonder how much we're going to hit this with the leg, so let's quickly test that because she does some pretty cool moves in the show. So if I pull both legs up into a sitting position, it's just kind of hitting. So I can get her all the way up to that. It is kind of stiff. It's thicker than I thought it might be. I thought it might be just a little bit rubbery so that it would bend a bit. So it is kind of hitting there. We can see that it's not really going to impact on the back. And we can sort of see the slightly awkward sculpting going on from the back because of the sort of the drape of her pants are a little bit thicker at the hips there. But overall, I think we can get some pretty cool articulation and poses going. Nice movement there at the ankles. That's I can get to there on the knees before that is hitting there at the back. So you can get a pretty good pose going there. And again on the other side there as well. So overall, oh, the other thing I haven't actually, didn't actually jump out at me. We do not have that seam line at the top of the thighs. We can usually sort of rotate the thighs out there a little bit, and that isn't a feature that I generally utilize for posing my figures, but it is almost always there, and perhaps they just decided that it was going to, I don't know, cut in to the plastic sculpting here a little too much. It was so clean, I almost forgot that that is generally there. So she does not have that point of articulation there. Really interesting. But of course, we can sort of see the articulation points. We can get some pretty good poses with her legs there. And yeah, I like the sculpting of the sleeves kind of flowing out over the back of her hands. I really like that. So I know Hasbro doesn't have quite as much of a costume detail to go with, but I do think the way that they have translated Master Indara's outfit in this Black Series figure is pretty good. I am just a little bit upset with the lack of paint apps there on the back. Perhaps this will be one of the figures that I will definitely keep the cloak on her. Some of the other figures being more traditional in their High Republic sort of mission robes with those yellow tabards, they do have some really neat forearm armor that I think is a little bit hidden when you put the soft goods robes on them. She doesn't wear any armor with this particular outfit, so nothing is really being too hidden. The sleeves are pretty plain, so I don't think we're really going to miss anything if she has her robes on. So I will probably have the robes on her for the sake of covering up that back, but I do kind of wish I had the options there. Overall, I think she looks really good. I'm especially happy with that face likeness there. So let's take a quick look at her lightsaber, because of course she is a Jedi. She needs her lightsaber. She has a very unique dark metallic silver lightsaber with some brilliant copper accents. Really cool. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I wish Hasbro gave us 2 of these lightsabers. We've got this really obvious peg, which of course is how we're going to attach the hilt into that little peg hole there on her belt, and if we're going to do that, of course it's not going to be ignited, so we need to remove the blade. Thankfully that one actually came off really nicely and easily. Sometimes I find the lightsabers, they don't want to go in and out a lot, and I'm always worried about snapping off the very, very important tiny little peg, and I feel like if Hasbro just gave us 2, that would go a long way, so that we can put it on the belt if we want, or have a lit one. So let's test putting the peg in the little attachment point. A little bit tight, but it does go on there without too much of a fight. I am always worried that one day I'm going to snap off one of those little pegs trying to get it in place, because some of them can be a bit tight. Thankfully hers wasn't too much of an issue. So I'm just going to quickly see how well she's going to hold her lightsaber in her hand. So we've got a nice kind of lightsaber grip. She has got an extended finger, kind of like a trigger finger here, which we often don't find on Jedi characters. And she's got a full round sort of grip here for her left hand. A lot of the times for Force users, we often get sort of a classic just lightsaber grip with a rounded one, and then their left hand tends to have maybe a Force move or another grip. So I'm just going to see how well this hilt is going to go into her hands. She's got tight little fingers here, but they went in just with a little bit of a push. I think there is, and it's just sort of catching the light, a little bit of a blue tint to the top of her lightsaber sort of shroud, emitter shroud here. And I'm wondering if that's supposed to be that sort of metal where it's sort of been heat, where you sort of get that different, I don't know the technical term, but I wonder if that's actually supposed to be there or it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. I think I'm seeing a hint of blue to the end of that emitter shroud, which is kind of pretty. I like that, if that is supposed to be there. So let's go and reattach the blade, and hopefully that all looks straight. And she holds that really well. Of course, it's a little bit awkward with just her arm like that. I really like the green color of her blade. It's really vibrant. Something about some of the colors of lightsabers look like they're glowing and others just look like plastic. But this one really looks like it's glowing. She holds that nicely. So now that I have her here, I'm just going to quickly grab the Jedi Master Soul figure that I have also unboxed, and you can see them together looking really quite cool. I like the colors of their lightsabers. Soul has a very, very blue lightsaber compared to some of the other ones that I've got in the Black Series line. Are you going to stand up? There we go. Okay, so he has got his soft goods robe on. He's got his armor visible here on the back of his hand. I really like that element. And now that I've got him out, I just want to flip him around to show this. The color of the cloaks is so different. This one's actually reading a little bit more of like a rust red on camera. To my eyes, it's almost like a dark wine. It's very different, and that's something that I don't necessarily always notice on the show, especially if the characters are not standing shoulder to shoulder. And it wasn't until I got these figures out and together that I really noticed the difference in the color robes. And structurally, they're sewn very similar, with the big hoods going over the shoulders there that cannot be raised to be worn as hoods, going all the way down to the wrists there. But these look really cool. I am really excited to see so many different Jedi characters from this new High Republic era in action figure form, and I cannot wait to get the rest of the figures that from this first wave out to have them all lined up. I think they look absolutely fantastic. Really cool. I like the details on these belts. He has a very wide belt, hers is narrower, but they both have those gold details on there. It's really cool. Okay, I'll just pop him down for a minute because he's not standing up for me. I love her in the show. I was hoping to see perhaps a little more. I won't go into spoilers. I was hoping to see a little more of her because she caught my attention so much in those trailers. But I think she was a fantastic character. And I'm really glad she holds her lightsaber nicely. It's going to be really fun to try out some different poses with this figure. I think she looks great. I'm definitely going to have to put that cloak back on her though. Putting the soft goods cloak back on, I realized I didn't fully articulate the hands, and because we have this plastic sculpted robe sleeve coming down onto the back of her hands, I can't rock them side to side, and on my particular figure I can barely rotate them as well, so very tight on the hands there. But she does hold her lightsaber well, so thankfully I don't need to articulate the wrist too much in order to get a pretty decent lightsaber pose there. Overall, I'm really happy that Jedi Master Indara made it to wave 1 of the Black Series figures. She was one I particularly liked from the trailers. I thought she was a really interesting character in the show, and of course I'm hoping to see some other characters added in subsequent waves. Of course, my picks would be Inara's Padawan Tobin, of course the mighty Wookiee Tikal Nakar, we need Basil the Tracker, the Stranger of course, Mother Anastasia, and of course Vernestra as well. So I'm really hoping that it won't be too long before we get some more Black Series figures from the Acolyte to really fill out our displays. There were some really cool characters, so many interesting Jedi. Oh, I think it was really fun. And of course, it's only been days since the finale aired, so it's really exciting to get brand new Star Wars figures on our store shelves here in New Zealand, so close to when a series aired. Unfortunately, we often tend to be a little bit behind the world, and we have to wait so much longer for our beloved Star Wars toys to finally arrive. So it was really exciting to actually be able to pick these ones up within days of watching the finale. So that was super exciting. And during those last couple of days of a toy sale as well, so grabbing new Star Wars figures so soon after the show and on sale, it's just been a great, exciting week for this Star Wars collector. And I've now got a new female Jedi Black Series figure to add to my collection. I think she looks fantastic. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars collectible and had a lot of fun checking out all of the details. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you're a Black Series fan, I recently unboxed the Jedi Master Soul figure. That video is linked here in case you haven't already seen it, as well as our whole Black Series unboxing playlist. This is the way.